like, well, the running wheel and the water bottle. It's like, there they are. Can't you just see them? It's like, well, no, maybe I see the glints of the reflection off the water bottle because my eyes aren't focused. My eyes are focused such that what the water bottle appears as a blur. And why isn't that blur the water bottle? And because it also is the water bottle. And that's a very difficult thing to think through. And so then you get from the complexity of the stimulus of the world to the complexity of the multiple futures. And you think, well, we solve that by prioritizing our perceptions. And so when you and I are sitting here talking to each other, we look at our faces, we look at each other's faces, and we do that, we particularly look at eyes. And our eyes have actually evolved so that we have an evident contrast between the iris and pupil and the sclera. And the reason we have that, most animals don't, including most primates, is because it's of crucial importance for human beings to see where other human beings point their eyes, because then you can tell how they're prioritizing their perceptions. And from that, you can derive almost instantly an embodied sense of their ethic. So because really it's so cool. Really it's so cool. And that's what we do when we're watching a movie, is what you want in terms of characterization is you want to set up someone who has a goal. Right? And whatever the goal is, it might be a nefarious goal, but your character has to have a motivation. And then the motivation has to be hinted at through their actions and their perceptions. And then the viewer cottons onto that goal, starts to infer it in an embodied way and reads off that embodiment, because once you can adopt the goal of someone else, you can duplicate their emotional responses. And the reason we want to do that is because we're really interested in embodying hierarchies of perception, prioritization, right? And so...
And does it matter whether it's conscious or it's unconscious? When you're prioritizing, I mean, obviously, you're not really thinking through Sometimes you are thinking through, where do I want to put my eyes? Like, what do I want to look at? Most of it you're not.
No,
obviously.
And most of it is, you hear the radicals, the postmodernists talk about implicit perception, right? And most perception is implicit. And so most of the prioritization is done unconsciously and automatically. Otherwise, what has to be, because otherwise, and a lot of it's guided by built-in instincts, right? So it's not only unconscious, it's a biological a priori. So here, for example, the focal depth of a newborn infant is precisely equivalent to the distance between their head in the cradling position for breastfeeding and the mother's eyes.
Right.
Right. So that's an a priori perceptual frame that took literally billions of years to construct, because it's so unbelievably complicated. And so once I realized that you have to prioritize your perceptions, and to prioritize means you have to have a hierarchy, because priorities means some things are more important than others.
Right.
Then the next thing you can think of is, well, does that hierarchy have to be unified or not? And the answer is, well, if it's not unified,
then it's not a hierarchy.
It's also, you're all over the place, right? So if you're talking to someone confused, that's unsettling. And the reason it's unsettling, I think, is because you don't know what they're perceiving, and that opens up that rat's nest, and you don't know what they're up to.
Right, you don't know what their goal is. It's like sitting with somebody and their eyes are all over the place.
Yes, exactly.
You can't coordinate.
It's also so interesting that that's also a hallmark of insanity. I used to watch the Sesame Street and the Muppets, and whenever they had a puppet who was not right...
The googly eyes, yeah.
The eyes were all over the place, yeah. And that means they're not focused and integrated towards a single goal. And the psychological consequence of that is hopelessness, because you experience hope and positive emotion in relationship to a goal. And anxiety, because you experience anxiety when there's too many things to look at or too many things to do. And so there's actually an immediate existential consequence to not having a hierarchy of perceptual priority. And so all of that dispenses with the criticisms of hierarchy. It's like, no, you need a hierarchy because you cannot filter the world or the possible futures without a hierarchy. And so then the next question arises, what's essential to the hierarchy, and also what's at the highest point of the hierarchy?